I'm Chip Talamonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. In our AM 560 Weather Center, we'll have some sunshine. Once the rain passes through, not as warm. Breezy by the afternoon, high 81. Partly cloudy and 68 overnight. Currently 75 degrees. Your next news is at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by The Insurance Guy. Tune in Saturday afternoons 4 to 5 for The Insurance Guy with Steve Lischewitz, president of SVL Insurance Group.
When you've got questions, he always has an answer. It's Sean Hannity this afternoon at 2 on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Several weeks ago, the Wellbeing Trust produced a study that projected there would be an additional 75,000 so-called deaths of despair as a result of lockdown policies, suicides, and addiction-related deaths. An additional 75,000 over the annual averages. Yesterday, CDC Director Dr. Robert Redfield, said this.
But there has been another cost that we've seen, particularly in high schools. We're seeing, sadly, far greater suicides now than we are deaths from COVID. We're seeing far greater deaths from drug overdose that are above excess that what we had as background than we are seeing deaths from COVID.
Is it worth it?
If we had only hiked taxes, if we had only removed police, if we had only added to the union's ranks, if we had only put a moratorium on charter schools and opportunity scholarships. I mean,
no evictions.
The teachers union warned us. They warned us. Demand safeschools.org. Go to it. The tagline, ed, equity, or else.
And what's the or else? Or else. They're coming for you.
This is the or else.
Right.
The schools are shut down. We don't care. You acquiesce to our demands or come what may. That's the attitude.
And Dr. Redfield said he's got grandchildren. He said, I want them absolutely to have in-person learning. So did President Trump. Dr. Fauci, some advice for you scared teachers out there. Get back to school. Here's what you can do for yourself.
The minimal things you might want to do is you could use just a mask and eye goggles and possibly gloves. Now, what you might want to do, if you can, would be to put something on that you can dispose of or wash after a class.
Yeah, and he was just addressing like those fearful teachers who are panic-stricken, like, I'm going to die if I go back to school. I'm going to transmit it to my mother who's old.
There are a few green shoots. Joseph Sears School in Kenilworth.
Yeah.
District 38. 5 days in-person education.
Good.
80% of the staff, it's reported on their website, available for in-person learning. Well, that's in the same community as New Trier, and New Trier is distance learning.
Distance learning. Well, Barrington caved yesterday. They're doing all e-learning now.
Yeah. In the same community, 2 school districts are doing it differently. So somebody has to be closer to the science and data than somebody else, don't they? Maybe all of you hyper-educated North Shore denizens are smarter than everybody else in the world. Maybe somebody should try and figure that out. Maybe the folks in Kenilworth or District 38 can talk to all the members of the Illuminati over at New Trier. But, I mean, again, it's just more suicides than COVID deaths among high school students. Shoulder shrug. Some teachers' union bosses' whipped up frenzy is more important. That's a question that some people should be asking themselves around Chicagoland and everywhere else, where teachers' unions are running roughshod over the interests of families and students. One place they're not, at the higher ed level, is at Judson University in Elgin. They're opening, too, in a couple of weeks for in-person learning. unlike Princeton and Harvard, for example. And for a discussion on that topic, we're pleased to be joined by the president of Judson University. He is Dr. Gene Crume. Gene, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Good morning, Amy. Good morning, Dan. Real quick, I'm teaching a class this fall in person about communications, and I think I'm going to use your last segment when I teach digital media to talk about the politics of algorithms. I think that may be required listening. That was very good.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll invoice you if you use my material, of course.
No, you could have it for free.
So, what's the program at Judson University? Lay it out for us.
So we're going to be open in person on campus learning. We will have our co-curricular activities taking place. We'll have students living in residence halls. We are taking the health and safety protocols by CDC and working with the King County Public Health to make sure everything that we do keeps our students safe. We're paying attention and supporting our professors and staff that are susceptible to COVID, and we're providing them with meaningful options to continue their work and their service at Judson. And I will tell you, our faculty and staff and our students, and in particular our students and their families, are very excited about the in-person learning, because we believe, like you've been sharing, that for a student, in our case being a faith-based institution, a student's spiritual welfare, their academic welfare, as the data seems to be indicating now as it's coming out in what we experienced last spring, as well as their community welfare, is better if they have the in-person on-campus option.
Has there been any pushback from any students or parents?
There's been a little. I've received a couple of emails, probably about 2 or 3 a week, asking questions more, Amy, than really hard pushback. A lot of our students come from households where, given our values and how we teach what we teach and share what we share, that there's a different understanding about the importance of being in person. And I think it's a felt experience to them, regardless of their cultural background or socioeconomic background or where they come from. Their desire is to have their young person, and this is the interesting thing, both in Rockford, where we have our adult campus, and our adult campus in Elgin, we're probably seeing a stronger expression from our adult students to want to be back in person in the classroom this fall so they can complete their studies and earn their degrees. And
so with respect to the professors, is this you can do distance learning if you want to, or you can do remote instruction if you want to, or you can be in the classroom? Is it an option, or is it just working with each individual professor to assess their comfort level and potential risk, or how did you make determinations there?
It's the latter, Dan, and we started that from day one. We started with the professors saying, we're going to work with you to determine your level of comfort, because the one thing I will share, there's a lot that's going to be studied and researched in this whole moment that we've had, and what we shared with folks, to include the felt trauma of people being afraid of the virus and what this might mean to them personally. And that's why you hear the CDC talking about things like suicide and depression and increases in alcoholism and opioid use, things like that. So we want to meet people where they are and ask them what your needs are, because we have people that have very significant underlying health concerns, and we want to honor that, and they're quite frankly good faculty members. So that means we need to augment their class. That gets a little more difficult to do in some classes versus others. My class has a more traditional format, so if I need to trend or to tack back to digital formats a little easier, that gets a lot harder in our architecture program, which is nationally recognized, and architecture requires a lot of studio in-class work that at times doesn't translate really well to the digital space. Art classes are in the same boat, science labs, but our faculty are being incredibly creative in how they come up with ways to continue the teaching and teach at a level that's equally as high as you would be experiencing in person. I know a lot of people don't believe that, but it can be done. The challenge is going to be doing it full time in a digital format requires a different understanding from the students. And I think that's where you see the gap in students talking about their disappointment in digital learning, is because that shift was very sudden, it was very traumatic, and it requires a different mindset.
And what about sports? Are you going to be, I know it's boys soccer, girls volleyball, or is that on hold, or are you going forward with that?
We're going forward with our athletic program. When young people come to college, especially a school like Judson and other four-year traditional institutions, they come for both and reasons. They come because you both have their degree program and there is a co-curricular experience that they want to participate in, and they want to participate in it. So if you're in the choir, you want to sing. If you're in the guitar ensemble, you want to play. If you're an art student, you want to create art and display your art. And if you're a student athlete, you want to perform. And so we're going to honor that commitment. We've been working with our conference. We're fortunate that we play in 2 national conferences. The challenging part is because so many schools are making decisions to move sports to the spring, that almost forces many of us that are willing to play in the fall to the spring. So we may have to make some alterations, but yes, we will have athletic competition this fall, and we look forward to welcoming our student athletes back on campus.
I want to go back to something you said, too, about how you think the university's values, the values of the staff and the students, inform the approach to COVID-19. There was an op-ed written by Father Tony Teixeira, who's a retired priest out of the Joliet Diocese. And he talks about how, we are, as human beings, we need to be in fellowship with one another. We need to touch each other. The moment it's safe to do so, he writes, and please God, maybe soon, we need to do no less than be healers. There are many telling us that when this is over, we'll no longer be shaking hands or hugging each other. I don't buy that for a minute. It's inhuman. I believe that the divine purpose of this hiatus of no physical contact or touch is to make us hungry, skin hungry, and to never again take physical contact for granted. When I ask Catholics what they miss most about not being able to go to church right now, they tell me the physical presence of the people and the reception of the body of Christ in the Holy Eucharist. Spiritual communion may be a wonderful theological concept, and we truly are coming into contact with the divine, but somehow it's not the same. Live streaming may be a wonderful technology, but it's not a replacement for the real thing. The whole idea of being in fellowship with other human beings, whether it's in a religious setting or it's in an academic setting or it's in an athletic setting, that's a real thing that I think has been, and we were discussing earlier, has been wildly underestimated and under-discussed in this moment.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. And being a Christian institution, we believe that God calls us to be in community. We think Scripture makes that clear. That same theological perspective is reflected in many of the other prominent religions as well. That God or Allah or a supreme being calls us to be in community. Now, we have times of contemplation. We have times of reflection and isolation where we are alone. But God calls us to be in community and be connected with each other as human beings. Even from a science standpoint, even on our most primal instincts, we're called to be together as a group of people. And so it's wired into our nature and our being, and we should do that well. And then when you do it well, it keeps people spiritually grounded, intellectually grounded, and socially grounded.
And it seems to me this may be a moment, an opportunity for liberal arts, small liberal arts, Christian-oriented universities like Judson to really attract a whole new crop of students that are not on board for what a lot of other colleges and universities are doing, just as we're seeing at the K through 12 level. We hope so. I mean, that's the message we've been sharing about education across the board. I mean, we can, have, a whole 3 hours on K through 12 public policy on education. But you're correct. I mean, what I share with families is buyer beware. Do you really understand the community that you are buying into when you send your child to college, when you as an adult student make a decision to go back to school and earn your degree? Do you understand what that community is going to be sharing and what that's going to look like? And especially when things move into a times of struggle or crisis, and especially when things are going well, have a full understanding of what that community experience is going to be like, because that will shape every single bit of content that begins to flow your way. And parents need to do a better job of making themselves educated to that and understanding that. And that includes your commitment to in-person learning. I mean, we've been very aggressive now in running ads with our high school prep program. The rules in Illinois about placing your child in homeschooling are very open and favorable to families. And we have an outstanding high school prep program. So if you're a high school junior or senior and you want to be in person
in your junior or senior year, well, you can participate in Judson's high school prep program and earn dual credit, have college credits knocked out, and continue your education and prepare for a college experience, or go into vocational school after that. So that's part of the ethic and culture you want to ask about as a parent when you look at where you send your kid to school, whether it's pre-K all the way through your doctoral program.
He is Gene Crume. He's the president of Judson University. For more information on Judson University, judsonu.edu. Gene, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Amy and Dan.
Thanks. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The Lou Dobbs Financial Report is brought to you by Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Visit signaturebank.bank for your commercial banking needs.
I'm Lou Dobbs. General Motors could repay a $16 billion loan by year end. Anthem Blue Cross profits doubled in the second quarter. Online orders put FedEx and UPS in the driver's seat. Those stories next. I was talking with Dr. McQuillan from Omega XL about some aches and some pains I've been having. She said whether it's your back, knee, neck, or shoulder pain, the cause is likely inflammation. She said you have to defeat inflammation to stop the pain. And she said if you don't, it can cause permanent damage. Omega XL is designed to attack the inflammation that causes pain. Pain relievers and topicals just mess the problem. Omega XL works to neutralize the inflammation that causes painful stiff joints and muscles. The doctor also told me